Hi, welcome to Talking with Famous People. I'm one of the hosts of Talking with Famous People. My name is Zachary, and in this video I want to discuss casual romance, casual dating as INTPs or young NTs in general who are entering their young adulthood and realizing that navigating the romantic sphere with their more extroverted and feeling-oriented contemporaries can be quite a challenge for INT types, for INTPs, and perhaps some of my advice that has been given to me and that conclusions I've come to along the way may serve to help someone else. So I think the most important thing is to remember that to not take anything too seriously early on. A lot of romantic bonding and relationships early on ultimately end up to be just kind of experimentation between all parties. Now this, as you get older, is a lot less true, of course, but I'm speaking primarily for the young adulthood sphere, you know. Yeah, I think that a lot of it's just experimentation, you know. A lot of people entering their young adulthood, this is the first time they've been in any romantic bond, and they don't know how to act, they don't know what is expected of them, what they should expect of their partner. And usually it doesn't end well. I mean, it kind of depends on what you define as well. Usually young NT types don't have a lot of success in romantic bonds. But I think the idea that they can't be successful is obviously false, and some of the tips I could give is that well, the thing about NT types is that you have to capitalize on your strengths that you have. Now, the cool thing about NT types is they generally tend to know a lot about one small thing or a few small things, or they know a little about a lot of things. Now, this is really beneficial in casual interaction with people because it gives off the impression that, oh, this person is interesting, they know what they're talking about, like they have their own interests, they know a lot about a wide range of topics, like this person is someone I could have a conversation with for a while. If you have trouble sparking a conversation with people or maintaining it with potential partners, I think the most important thing to remember is just inquiring about people, right? People love to talk about their own interests, they love talking about themselves. And there's nothing wrong with that. You know, there's nothing wrong with that, but it is beneficial to capitalize on that. If you feel a conversation being stagnant, it's easy to inquire more about what the person does day to day, what their hobbies are, the type of. I mean, one of the things that the NT types would generally do is kind of try to type them, you know, but they won't. It obviously won't be vocalized. I would actually recommend not vocalizing that stuff, personally. I mean, I'm sure some people would be like sparked up and interested by it, like, oh, this is cool, this is like some psychology stuff, like, but I think in general, I would avoid like vocalizing that, you know. But I mean, just inquiring about people's tastes and their hobbies and their day-to-day activities, that is more than enough to keep conversation going, and you can offer your own small insights about what they are talking about, and that leads to a sort of charming atmosphere, right? Now, one of the things for INTPs is that because they have SI in their stack, and they get stuck in the same TI-SI loop where it's like, they might have a few, I suppose, burned out connections. So they might spark up a connection with someone that ends up not working out. It may happen a couple of times, and then they get into a state of mind where it's like, oh, well, you know, fuck all this, like, I'm not even going to try to get in a romantic relationship. But inwardly, they still want to have that romantic connection because we're social animals and we have those inclinations and impulses. But you shouldn't let it get you down. I mean, early on in casual romantic connections, you have to remember that it's primarily just a numbers game, and a lot of people are experimenting around. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't maintain a long and fulfilling relationship from someone you meet in your early years. It certainly does happen. It's just very rare. So don't expect it. But obviously if it turns out like that's really good, right? But I wouldn't approach romantic connections as looking for a long-term relationship right off the bat. And I also wouldn't approach connections looking only to casually hook up. I mean, leave that to the ESTPs and ESFPs, but I kid. But I think that I think a lot of INTPs or NT types will get in this. They'll kind of like they'll have some bad interactions, or they'll have some stuff that doesn't play out for them, and then they'll start like a almost like journey of just they focus on like self-improvement, and they focus on like hooking up with girls and getting like casual sex and stuff like that because they see that as success. I have no comment on that. Like if both partners are happy with something like that going on, like that's fine. But I think for INTPs, it's best to just make connections with people and then see what happens. Like the best way to get to know someone if they are going to connect with you romantically or perhaps will develop a romantic bond with you is to talk to them about their interests. You know, I think it's wrong to. It's definitely right to approach with interest if you are interested in someone, but it's wrong to approach it only for. I guess. It's wrong to approach it in the sense of, I just want like to date this person and that's it, right? Because that stuff rarely ever works out. I think a lot of people have experiences where early on that's how they approach something and they realize, oh, I'm not compatible with this person at all. Like, and it just leads to it leads to a lot of just mushy, just emotion shit that you don't want to deal with. That's what it leads to. So but the thing is, like, INTPs like to try shit out for themselves. So me saying that probably isn't going to prevent you from having like maybe one or two of those experiences. I think a lot of us have it when we're younger, and it's kind of funny to look back on. But yeah, it's I think the best way for INTPs, we have abilities that a lot of the general populace don't have. Now, the Achilles heel we have obviously is that we're afraid to fucking approach people, and we're afraid to have conversations with people, and we're afraid to engage them. You have to realize you have NE and FE in your stack. These are fucking like fucking killer ass cognitive functions in charming people. They're fucking amazing, and if you learn to capitalize on that, you can easily develop bonds with people, easily develop friendships, and if those friendships have some sort of mutual attraction, then it's easy to turn those into something that's perhaps romantic. And those are really enjoyable because then you have a mutual bond with someone, right? As opposed to something that's just lustful, I suppose would be the right word. But yeah, for NT types, don't become discouraged or demoralized because a few things don't work out for you. Just keep working on it. You have to remember that the more you approach, like, the more you get to know people, you're going to learn more about other people anyways, and that's more knowledge to us, but it also has the opportunity to sprout romantic bonds. There's no need to be afraid of connecting with people. If you see someone you're interested in, you may as well talk to them, because you lose nothing in the situation, right? Like if you're currently like single or something, I mean, you're going to lose nothing if they say like no or something. If you ask them on a date, like you lose absolutely nothing. It is just illogical to be afraid of it. And we know this, and I know it doesn't really help a lot of the time, but if you can remember it, just know that once you get into the situation, and once you start talking to someone, your NE and FE really take a hold of you, and it's not nearly as difficult as it was, or your preconceived idea of what was going to happen. I think NT types have a lot of anxiety up to things like that, but you have to remember that we're all human. We all experience a similar level of anxiety about things. It's just, I think the primary difference is the way each of the types approach their anxiety. And the ideal thing for NT types is when developing and building bonds with people, or making romantic bonds, or making romantic connections, approaching people you may find attractive or interesting, stuff like that, is to just turn the anxiety off. Just decide that, okay, look, there's nothing to be anxious about. We are some of the most interesting people in society. We have these advanced conceptions of intellectual thought. We have these interests that are almost esoteric compared to the rest of society, where we pursue intellectual pursuits. It's these things people find interesting, and I think a lot of times we take for granted because our life is so, I guess we're so generally absorbed by these things that we forget to realize that a lot of the general populace doesn't engage in this shit. And that if you go and you just be kind to people and you connect with them and you be, courteous and you talk about your interests and stuff, people like that. People like conversation. They like connecting with people. It's a lot easier than you think once you start engaging in it. So I think like the bottom line of this video is, if you are an NT type and you're like a young adult and you're having issues approaching people, making connections, just fucking do it. Just fucking do it. Like there's no downside to it. It's fun learning about people. It's fun to have people learn about you. It's mutual enjoyment once you start engaging in the process. And if you're discouraged currently or demoralized because of past experiences, fuck that. Like, forget about that shit. Throw your SI out the fucking window, because things rarely repeat themselves in romantic bonds, I find. I mean, unless you find someone the exact same type and shit like that, or someone who's extremely similar, even within the same types, people are wildly different. Don't let previous bad experiences demoralize or discourage you from building bonds with more people, because ultimately, I think you'll really enjoy it, and it's something that is fun. It's no one gets hurt. It's just and it's important for INTPs because it helps develop our NE and FE. I think that's one of the primary things, is that if you're in a relationship or if you're in a romantic bond, your NE and FE are going to get developed because you're constantly using them. You're constantly utilizing them to further your relationship or your bond with another person. But yeah, so I guess the general idea of this video is to inquire more about people, and don't give a shit when approaching people, because everything's going to be okay and it's fun, and the more you approach, the more opportunities you're going to have for something to sprout, and you lose nothing if you approach them anyways. Thanks for watching.